we're just trying to get, in the mood for Christmas. Here we are,
In the mood for Christmas.
Not far away. You're not far away from the closing of your new house. That's very exciting. So
it's very exciting.
Yeah, I'd say next year we'd have some different recording locations.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and my Christmas present, we're recording on it right now. So.
I know. We got a new...
Yeah.
Wait, you got a new camera.
We got a new camera, so you can, see us, and we don't have to keep running into issues with recording with an iPhone. Which is why we didn't have a video last week. But, here we are. And we've got, a really heartwarming Christmas story for you all. So heartwarming. Yeah.
Well, I mean, but yeah, we have a heartwarming
Christmas tale.
Yeah. We spent the afternoon. So you had a Nashville weekend.
Mm-hmm.
It was not really a Nashville weekend because you didn't get to do certain things. But you had a Nashville weekend.
Yeah.
I was here with the dogs.
Yes.
And I got to do some therapy and stuff. And that was,
Yay.
fun.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah, today we got to rejoin and we spent 4 hours watching a documentary about JonBenét Ramsey.
Woo!
Hi, hello, everyone. This is Freaks of a Feather, and I am Emily Wooten, and this is...
Mary Boom. Hi, hello, everyone.
Welcome.
Yes.
And so we spent all day pretty much researching and watching this shit about JonBenét Ramsey. And I had heard about, everybody knows about this fucking story. I don't care who you are.
Yeah.
Please. There have been so many true crime specials on it. And there's a lot of problematic racial undertones because they gave so much attention to this little white girl that was murdered. And whereas there's so many little black girls that go missing and murdered who have never made the front page. So
they were also a very wealthy and influential family in Boulder, Colorado.
And I think it was also pretty obvious to anyone who watched it unfold that they were involved. It was very obvious.
Yeah, the parents with her supposed disappearance.
Her
anybody
murder.
That's heard the JonBenét Ramsey story, and if you haven't,
Yeah. JonBenét Ramsey was a 6-year-old pageant. Well, she was a 6-year-old child, right? She was the daughter of Patsy and John Ramsey. Patsy, a former beauty queen from West Virginia. She won Miss West Virginia.
Yeah.
They had...
She was in her early 20s when she met her husband. There was a 14-year age gap.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, 19 or 20 when she met him. Well, they got married and he was a successful... software engineer. It eventually became Lockheed Martin, his company.
Yeah.
It became a part of Lockheed Martin. So he made a lot of money.
Yeah, I mean, he was a millionaire at the time.
Yeah.
So when you hear this story unfold, you'll wonder why, okay, because there's a ransom letter involved. She was supposedly kidnapped, all that stuff.
Well.
Why they wouldn't ask for more money? I don't know, but anyway.
So, anyways, they have an older son. They have a son at the time. They had a son named Burke, who was 10 years old, and Burke was very interesting. He had some behavioral issues because it had been documented that he would spread feces on the walls of the house. Mm-hmm. He had attacked his sister with a golf club. Well, or maybe accidentally hit her in the face with a golf club. Mm-hmm. He would spread feces all over her belongings.
Yeah, for Christmas she got a box of chocolate and he smeared his own shit or something shit.
No, they said it was his shit.
His own shit on the box of chocolates so she couldn't enjoy it.
So interesting child and got
Yeah.
got some interesting behaviors there. Some sort of.
He liked being the only child, and then when JonBenét came in the picture, it was, what can I do to make this little girl's life a living hell? Because now she's getting in the way of my time with my parents.
Or just like he has poor. It could be anything. It could be anything from physical or emotional abuse from his parents, or it could be he's just born naturally fucked up. He's got an antisocial personality,
which
which kind of seems like it. Yeah, like he's maybe born that way, and he just has poor regulation of his emotions.
Yeah.
But either way, they have Burke. He's around her death. He's the age of 10. He's 9. And so JonBenét was born in 1990. She was 6 years old in December of 1996. And
Burke was 9 or 10. He was born in 87, so he's a little bit, a little bit older.
A little bit
her.
older,
not by much, but I guess close enough to where they would butt heads quite a bit.
They would butt heads, and they didn't really get along. And there were a bunch of friends who were like, Burke was kind of aggressive and not great and towards JonBenét.
JonBenét was their, the Ramseys' prize possession, practically. Well, at least Ramsey's.
Definitely Patsy's, because remember, former beauty queen.
Yeah. Raises a child beauty pageant, star.
Yes.
If you will.
And would dress, and that's part of what made it so sensationalized too, is how fucking weird the mother's relationship to the daughter was, because she bleached her hair blonde. She would put her in a full set of makeup. I mean, if you watch Toddlers of Tears, you know what we're talking about.
Yeah.
If you've ever seen that shit. But if you look up at pictures of JonBenét Ramsey, she basically contoured this girl's face, who is 6, to try to make her look like a woman. It's very disturbing.
And they do this a lot for those, and especially,
it's very gross.
Especially in the South. Now, they lived in Boulder, Colorado at the time, but they were like, JonBenét, she was born in Georgia, and the family eventually relocated to Boulder. And they just carried on the tradition of, pageantry.
Pageants. Yeah, she was Miss Little Boulder, Little Miss America.
Yeah.
She had all of these trophies and shit in her room, and I mean, from what it seems like from other interviews that I've seen, she was just an average happy child, but Patsy really, really tried to get her to focus on pageantry, and she didn't really care because she was fucking 6 years old.
6. Yeah.
Which is really sad. The Ramseys were very well off. And so they lived in this secluded community in Boulder, Colorado, which if you've ever been to Boulder, especially now, I mean, Boulder back then was a jujy place to live, and it is even more so now.
Yeah.
And they had a giant house, 3 stories? Something like that.
I mean, the guy's a millionaire, so they have yachts, they had private jets, I think I've heard of.
Yeah,
so
they were very well off. And so Christmas was, they opened their presents, and then they go to their friend's house, the
Whites.
The Whites, for like a party in the evening. JonBenét falls asleep in the car on the way back home. Her dad takes her upstairs, puts her to bed. The mom we don't know by her account at this time.
Yeah.
She kind of goes to bed, and then the father says he goes downstairs and he helps his son finish putting together a toy. And then the son goes to bed and the father goes to bed. Well, the next time we hear from the Ramseys, it's 5:52 a.m. And Patsy Ramsey is calling the police. And if you listen to her 911 call, it's very peculiar. It's very peculiar. Just her cadence it seems very rehearsed in some of it. She doesn't refer to her daughter by name. And I know that the investigators that we watched today made a big point of that, is that she talked about her daughter like in the past tense and didn't mention her by name. Also, she hung up the phone really quickly, which they were like, usually that never happens. Like, if you're a parent and something's wrong with your child,
you're gonna hang on and wait for them, like
wait
the
for them
lifeline
to arrive. But what she was panicking about was that she had woken up and gone downstairs, and on the third step of the staircase was a ransom note, and it addressed John Ramsey mainly, and
I've got it.
Mary can read the ransom note for you. It is also very peculiar.
Yeah. So I mean, like, when she called 911, the dispatcher was confused as to why she wants to hang up, misses the receiver, and
then
they
can hear
later
her
edit to be able to see what they said, because they immediately there was a shift in her emotions after the phone call ended, well, as she thought.
So it went so that's an important thing. Patsy Ramsey went from being hysterical to she thought she hung up the phone, and then everything just cut off.
Yeah.
And then the operator could hear her talking calmly to two other people in the room.
Yeah, they assumed that it was probably Burke, her brother, who was supposedly asleep after visiting neighbors. And they were like, yes, he's asleep. And then she was also talking to her husband, and you can hear him saying, like, no, this doesn't concern you, saying to somebody, and then
we're not talking to you.
Yeah, we're not talking to you.
But the telephone operator said that she heard Patsy say, well, we've called the police, now what? Kind of thing. So already, she was also never used in the investigation, this woman. Yeah. The dispatcher, which is interesting. Yeah. But this is the note.
A 2.5-page letter that, even if I were to try to write this as fast as I can, they tested it, how long it would take to write this letter. It would take 22 minutes to write it. Like, what person that was breaking in and abducting a child would then sit down for 20 to 30 minutes, probably longer if you're actually thinking about what you're writing.
As you listen to it, it is very very staged. Like, it's very much like, I think of what someone who pictures, like, oh, what a villain in the movies would say, and let's elaborate and write a book about it. Like, it
goes as such.
Yeah.
Mr. Ramsey, listen carefully.
Which, it's a note.
We are a group of individuals that represent a small foreign faction. We do respect your business, but not the country that it serves. At this time, we have your daughter in our possession. She is safe and unharmed, and you want to see her. And if you want to see her in 1997, you must follow our instructions to the letter. You will withdraw $118,000 from your bank account. $100,000 will be sent in $100 bills, and the remaining $18,000 will be sent in $20 bills.
Which, by the way, correlates with, I think, a raise or some kind of lump sum that her father got earlier this year, which is like, how would
which he openly admitted. And he's like, he volunteered that information. She's like, I got a raise this year that was around that. It must be someone from the company or something.
Yeah, so pretty much that was the convenient amount of money that they had to, let go of.
Also, the Ramseys are worth millions. Why the fuck? If you're going to fucking kidnap a child and hold them for ransom, go big. Like, what?
Like, for real. But the letter continues.
Make sure that you bring an adequate size attached to the bag. Attaché to the bag.
That too. That threw him, like, no criminal is saying, bring an adequate size attaché.
And there's a lot of misspellings and stuff in this too, because they're trying to spin it as a foreign person.
It's a purposeful misspelling, because they will spell some words, English words, immaculately.
Yeah, like, it's funny.
It's very weird.
But yeah, they ask that the money be put in a brown paper bag and that they will get a call between 8 and 10 a.m. the next morning to instruct you on delivery, they said.
The delivery will be exhausting, so I advise you to be rested.
As if they fucking care.
And all the investigators pretty much now are just like, yeah, this is the most staged ransom note that I've ever seen in my life. Like, this criminal, if this was someone who actually broke in, like, I'm gonna sit down at the desk and write my tome.
Yeah.
Like, no one does that.
First of all, it was on a pad of paper that Miss Ramsey used. It was her own personal pad of paper.
Which you could say someone broke in and took the pad of paper.
And the pen.
Let's say this is the weirdest criminal in the world. Okay, this is the most confused criminal in the world. Breaks in. Mm-hmm. Decides, well, shit, I did all of this research to find out that John Ramsey had this much money in a bonus.
Yeah.
But I didn't do enough to write a letter beforehand for coming to get the kid.
Yeah.
I'm going to sit down and write a detailed, novel-esque description.
Yeah. But it's ridiculous.
On her paper, with one of her pens. Leave my DNA behind.
It was put away exactly where it belonged. Like, how would that person know unless they fucking lived there? Or was a close friend, but still, even like close friends, like, would you know where I keep my favorite pen and my pad of paper?
And what, like, exactly. And furthermore, the pen was wiped of prints, which.
Yeah. Yeah, and they ink matched it to that specific pen as well. So
stupid.
But and they also were like, whoever wrote this, based on how they worded things, was more than likely female as well. So more than likely, this was the mother writing this. So when I continue
they matched up her individual writing to it as well.
So when I continue on with what this like ransom letter says, it's really fucking sick what she writes in this scenario about her daughter who just died. To me, it's so disgusting.
Yeah.
But it goes on.
If we monitor you getting the money early, we might call you early to arrange an earlier delivery of the money and hence an earlier delivery pickup of your daughter. Any deviation of my instructions will result in the immediate execution of your daughter. You will also be detained. You will also be denied her remains for proper burial. The two gentlemen watching over your daughter do not particularly like you, so I advise you not to provoke them. Speaking to anyone about your situation, such as the police, FBI, etc., will result in your daughter being beheaded.
Which sounds like it was thrown in to make them sound like they were foreign.
Yeah.
If we catch you talking to a stray dog, she dies. If you alert bank authorities, she dies. If the money is in any way marked or tampered with, she dies. You will be scanned for electronic devices, and if you are found, she dies. If they are found, she dies. You can try to deceive us, but be warned that we are familiar with law enforcement countermeasures and tactics. You stand a 99% chance of killing your daughter if you try to outsmart us. Follow our instructions, and you stand a 100% chance of getting her back.
Yeah, like a criminal. No.
Yeah.
No. And they analyzed it, and there were a bunch of quotes from Dirty Harry
and Speed
in there, and Speed.
And they were big movie buffs. They had posters all over their houses. Like, this was...
it's just...
Miss Ramsey, you are really giving yourself away. I know that's your favorite movie.
I know you love Dirty Harry. No, but yeah, so...
There's a couple more sentences. It says,
You and your family are under constant scrutiny as well as the authorities. Don't try to grow a brain, John. You're not the only fat cat around, so don't think that killing will be difficult. Don't underestimate us, John. Use that good southern common sense of yours. It is up to you now, John. Victory! Signed SBTC.
You're not the only fat... Hi, see? You're not the only fat cat around here, John.
So
yeah.
It's It's definitely strange.
Definitely staged, and most people agree on this. However, what does Patsy Ramsey do after she calls the police? She immediately calls their friends, their best friends, Fleet White and this other...
Yeah, we're the people that they were hanging out with the previous night. Yeah.
To come over. What?
But they got there before, the police and everything got there.
And so they're just like free wandering all throughout this house. And I've seen other sources that say more people came, like they had other friends as well. So they're just like trampling up and down this potential crime scene.
Yeah, destroying any evidence that may be applicable to helping find their daughter that's supposedly been kidnapped.
By foreign factions, yeah.
It's
so fucking dumb. So stupid. But Burke supposedly this whole entire time has been asleep. And the police finally arrive. I think the timeline was around like 8 o'clock or something 6 when the police arrive. And then the FBI agent, because it's a missing child that goes to the FBI, he didn't arrive till around like 11 or 12.
Yeah.
And so around that time, the FBI agent's like, why the fuck are all these people in here just walking around and this stuff? This needs to be shut down. And so the police chief calls John Ramsey and lets him know that they're going to search the house from top to bottom. Meanwhile, 2 hours prior to this, when the police had shown up and were just like, I don't know, fucking jerking off in the hallway.
Yeah. They're not searching the house looking for her. Maybe, maybe this is a stupid joke by somebody. It's a cruel joke, whatever. I'm sorry, but if my child was missing, I would look from top to bottom.
Right.
Like, where are they in the yard? I would start calling friends, like, is she with you? Or, anything to rule out. Even if there was a letter, I would rule out anything else possible, right?
Absolutely. But they don't do that. And actually, John is missing for about an hour and a half during this time.
Yeah.
No one has eyes on him. Okay? As soon as he finds out that, we're going to search from top to bottom, the FBI say immediately he goes to the basement with his friend, Fleet White. They go downstairs, and John finds JonBenét in the wine cellar on the floor, covered in a white blanket. How she's found her, well, we don't know how exactly she's found, because he immediately grabs the body, takes it upstairs. The fact that he didn't jump, like the Fleet White didn't jump on her and try and to see if she's alive or dead. Weird.
It's
immediately picks up the body and takes her upstairs, and he was like, I found her, and he lays his child, who he is not. I mean, I would still be hoping that she's not dead at this point.
Yeah, maybe she's just knocked out or something. Like, why wouldn't you leave her there in case her neck's broken or whatever, right? And
well, even that, he doesn't lay her on the couch. He lays her on the floor. And so, crime scene contaminated. The coroner later revealed that JonBenét, and this is years after, when after all of this shit happens, they go back in, they really look at the case. She has blunt force trauma to her head. But it did not break the skin.
Yep.
So it's possible because of like the dexterity of human flesh versus the bone, which is at a 6-year-old is very soft. At that point. She has a hole, basically cracked a hole in her skull, and she had a massive concussion, and she was brain dead almost immediately. What they found on her body was her wrists were loosely tied with slip knots together. And there was a garrote, which is basically when you take like a piece of wood or something and tie wire around it and hold it against someone's neck.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it was like a shoestring or something attached to a broken paintbrush.
Yeah.
And it's like...
It's got her hair all wrapped up in it and shit.
And one of the investigators were like, an adult wouldn't have to use a garrote to kill a 6-year-old child.
No.
That's... No.
No.
That's... What? Anyways, all of this to say that this is all a red herring.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty much is what they surmise. Because JonBenét died from the blunt force trauma. Now you thinking, if you think this criminal actually did this, right? They find in the basement a broken window that had already been broken because John Ramsey's dumbass would get locked out all the time. So he broke one of his own windows near the basement so that he could break back into the house. Now, given this window was cracked, but as they pointed out in the original footage of the tour of the house, the crime scene, there are cobwebs in this window that if someone came in through that window, they would have torn down those cobwebs.
Yeah.
And they did a recreation and kind of showed how that would happen.
Yeah, they had made a whole model of the house, like an entire replica of the house to figure this shit out.
They made an entire replica of the house to figure out all of it, down to the home decor, everything. And so, but this is like years after this case.
Oh, yeah.
Was dismissed. This is years and years.
These are people that are like, okay, let's figure this shit out because it's ridiculous. Like, some people just want to find the conclusion of this because it haunts people, especially if they were involved in it and worked in it. And I can't imagine, like, how that would make you feel at the end of the day as a professional, like, wanting to do your best and just dealing with absolute snobby, entitled people that think they can just literally get away with murder.
Right, and it's also...
Or conceal a murder because they're rich.
Right. Yeah, so JonBenét's found at 1 p.m. by her father. He immediately then tries to leave the country. Which...
Come on.
Interesting.
Yeah.
They don't let him go. But this is the weirdest part, is that the Ramseys say your daughter had been murdered by an outside party outside of the house. They were not cooperative with police. They refused to do interviews, which I didn't know you could fucking refuse. Like, if
they just got away with it.
Fucking refused to do interviews until like 4 months after their kid was killed. Like, they wouldn't work with the police. They like 2 weeks after it happened, they went on national television. And were like, keep your babies close. You know, like all...
There's a killer on the loose. God knows what you did.
But it's like not helping, not working with the police, not cooperating. And the DA, the district attorney of Boulder, was pretty much allowing them to get away with this, was not cooperating with the police either. And like wouldn't grant them warrants to search the house, wouldn't grant them warrants to test evidence. Like, it was pretty obvious. The policewoman said that it was pretty obvious in the police department that the DA they knew very well that this was a cover-up job. This was...
It's just, I mean, it's clear that it is, but I guess what people are trying to figure out now is, like, what exactly are we covering up? Let's find the conclusion, the truth to this story. And
how deep does it go? Well,
there's a lot of theories.
Essentially, I mean, there were a lot of theories back in the day that Patsy Ramsey went off the edge. And because apparently JonBenét had a bedwetting issue. A lot of people tried to spin back in the day that she was being molested or something because they found DNA in her underwear, but they disproved that in this new documentary because transfer DNA, you can get random DNA on clothing that you just buy from the store. Not to mention she's a kid running around on a playground, probably wearing a dress with her. She was just at a house party, probably running around around with other kids,
Yeah.
sitting on the ground. She's probably wearing a dress. Her underwear is probably touching surfaces.
Yeah. And
So-
they, you know, there was no semen found in her vaginal cavity.
No.
No injuries or anything like that. There was like micro scrapes or whatever in her vaginal cavity, but it was like on the microscopic level, like, but they twisted it in the media at the time to make it sound like somebody had been molesting this girl.
And it was like easy. It was an easy jump too because
she was a pageant
child
child
because of how sexualized and weird her mother dressed her up. Like it was gross. So there were a lot of suspects named, but nothing came to fruition. Basically, the Ramseys got off. Nobody. This was specifically designed, and the former policewoman would agree. It would pretty much said this was specifically designed by the DA to make this go away, to make this disappear. But why? And it's pretty much across the board. A lot of people believe that it might not have been done on purpose. It might have been a reaction that turned deadly, but her brother killed her. Because again, we said evidence shows that there was a bowl of half-eaten pineapple and milk.
Yeah, he loved it. Was his favorite treat. And then, you know, JonBenét also really loved pineapple, but he had like a tea bag and a cup and then pineapple and milk on the counter next to a flashlight.
A flashlight.
So if you've ever seen one of those, I've got one. They're huge and you can really cause some damage with those things.
You really can. And the working theory is that she was put to bed, Patsy, because Patsy's DNA was found all over the glass and the bowl, as well as Burke's, of the food. That Patsy made him his treat before he went to bed. JonBenét probably woke up, came downstairs, and pinched a pineapple because they found pineapple in her digestive tract. And based on how broken down it was, the time frame was around 11 or so at night when she would have eaten it. And so the theory is that Burke, poor emotional regulation and just like a fucking kind of a fucked up kid, like an aggressive child. I mean, he's smearing feces on things.
Hitting her with a golf club. How far-fetched would it be that he grabs the mag light and whacks her over the head?
And so that's the theory. Like, she put the pineapple in her mouth. She pinched the pineapple from him. He got pissed, picked up the mag light, and gave her a wallop. And then she probably fell to the floor. And probably Patsy like came running. They're like, "Oh my god, what do we do?" And they even matched up. She had 2 marks on her back that they said was a taser. First of all, they said that the defense back in the day tried to say, the DA tried to say that a perpetrator had snuck in and tasered this little girl to subdue her. But that's the exact opposite of what tasers do to people. They don't really subdue them. Like, if you tase someone while they're in a dead sleep, they're gonna scream. You're gonna hear that. It's not gonna...
She would have woke up the entire house. If somebody tased her.
But they did match it up to a train track, a piece of train.
Like a metal train track.
Train track toy of Burke's. So it sounds like he fucking hit her while his mom was doing something. She falls over. He starts to panic. He gets one of those little train tracks to poke her to see if she's like dead or not.
Yeah, because I guess where the little marks were, they never bled or anything like that. So they even proved that it was post-mortem
that he poked her. I'm thinking, and I have my own theory that I'm thinking like she was there in the kitchen. She saw him do it. Patsy did. Saw it happen. And they waited. They waited to take her. They weren't going to take her to the hospital. Because
they probably were up all night planning this stupid thing.
They weren't going to take her to the hospital because they didn't, or call the cop because they didn't want Burke to get in trouble. And they didn't want their image damaged.
No.
Because in my opinion, if one of my kids accidentally flew off the handle to the point he murdered his younger sibling. I kind of want. I love you, but you kind of need to be put away, and you kind of need to be watched so that you
need to learn from this situation. It was very, very bad what you did. You're a little kid, you know, he may had been able to get help or something like that and turn his life around, but I'm sure he needed to be somewhere. Maniacal monster these days. And from what I hear,
he's really
he doesn't like all these shows that are spinning things to make it seem like it's his fault. Like, he's sued CBS for millions. He's suing other people for millions. Yeah.
And you watch, I mean, the interviews with Burke are interesting because of his behavior. Even the child psychologist who was watching it, he was like, this kid just acts like nothing happened. Like, he couldn't give a fuck less. Like, in fact, when the cops showed up and talked to him at the house that morning, he didn't even ask about, well, where do you think my sister is? Do you think she's alive? You know, is she okay? Like, couldn't give a fuck.
God, the interviews after, they were like, you know, what did how do you think she died and stuff like that? And he was just so like, this literally, it wasn't like it was months after this happened and he processed it. It was immediately after it.
It was like a week. He was like cracking up, talking about his friends at school, being like, they asked my friends questions like, do you know Berg?
And he was just talking about, like, I don't have time to worry about this because I'm busy playing my Nintendo video games. Just absolute
weird as fuck.
You can tell that there's something wrong with the kid.
Yeah, there's something not right. But the theory is they wanted to protect their son, so they did everything they could. Maybe they had something over on the DA, like they were going to expose him for something. A lot of people have theories that the Ramseys were sexually abusing her, and they were a bunch of pedophiles and all this cabal of evil and bullshit. Which I highly doubt. I think he probably just bought him off. Honestly, is what it comes down to.
Yeah. It's crazy though, but hopefully, you know, with the advancement of, you know, DNA and
it's one of those things where it's like, just like O.J. Simpson, like, you know, they did it. Like,
it was just a political thing. It was, you know, some dirty money involved somewhere.
Oh yeah,
of course. I mean, they were very wealthy, and
they can say, I'm like, it would have been so much better for society if they had just done the natural thing and like called and had their son committed, and like it would have, you know.
But yeah, now it's just, I guess the dad is still alive, but he has no comment on any of this stuff. And of course,
this is all alleged, by the way.
Yeah, I'm not saying that any of this stuff is true. I don't know.
This is all alleged because it's still unsolved.
It still is, but I have a feeling that it's not going to be, you know, that way for too long, thanks to the internet and people retelling these stories.
I'm sure they've... See, that's the other thing I got from Burke. I know he was just like 10 or 11 in some of those interviews, but he seems like the kind that he would slip up. Like, he would get drunk and say something like, oh, I killed my sister.
Oh, yeah.
Like some kind of shit, like I don't know.
he's got a girl or a guy sleeping over.
Can you imagine?
Sleep. No, I killed my sister. I'm so sorry. Like, what? Were you having a nightmare? Oh yeah, I have those sometimes, but I didn't do it.
Fun. I mean, if you know they're wrong and Burke happens to be innocent. I just can't see a world in which he is, but...
He's got to be guilty. Look, he got his way. He got to be an only child. His poor mother only lived until 2006. Yeah, she had, like, ovarian cancer or something like that. And then the husband is still alive. God only knows what he's doing. But I'm sure, you know, he's a trust fund baby. And then, of course, all of this lawsuit money is enough to pay the bills and, you know, keep up this lavish lifestyle that he's grown up and is so used to.
Oh, yeah. He's just like...
But at what cost? At what cost with your reputation?
Yeah, you kind of like, it's kind of hard to make friends, huh?
Oh, I bet.
Kind of hard. They find out.
I bet he goes by a different name.
Oh, even like, but because even like douchebags who like wouldn't care, they'd be like, "Oh, you're the guy from did you kill your sister?" Like, constantly, constantly.
You know, nobody knows. I mean,
nobody knows.
Yeah, we get it.
Alleged.
Everybody gets it.
Everybody gets it. Those who know. But that is the story. I mean, and it's so sad. And I mean, that's the story of JonBenét Ramsey. And that's sad that that's her story. Like, she's, like, they mentioned it in the documentary. She becomes a footnote in her own story. Like, she's just, like, an object, pretty much. Like, her mom used her to live vicariously through. I'm sure she loved her daughter.
Yeah.
But, I mean, not enough to do right by her and call the ambulance after the son fucking hits. Because I fucking guarantee it wasn't that I bet he ran to his parents, or they saw him immediately after he did it.
Yeah.
Which, why didn't you call?
Like, I get it. Like, you don't want bad for your son, but you're doing bad by him by
you're
lying
doing bad
and teaching him that.
Well, yeah, not only that, but you're doing bad by your daughter. Like, you don't know she's fucking dead. Call the fucking hospital. Call the fucking ambulance.
Just people do the right thing, you know?
Like, fuck.
Like
they pretty much, it sounds like they just waited till they could see if she was dead or not.
Yeah.
Because I can't, like, for the life of me, because Burke at 9 years old didn't drag her body down the stairs and put the garrote and all that shit over and wait till his parents were, up in the... No. They knew. They knew immediately.
That's why Daddy Ramsey brought, her up and, was very, very convinced she was already dead, laid her on the floor and was like, oh, here it is.
Here she is, yeah.
It's
just treating her like she's just disposable. Yeah. And I think it's all just for fucking image.
It's crazy. She would be our age. She would have been in our grade.
No, she'd be 26. No.
She's born in...
No, she'd be 32.
Yeah, she would be our age, so...
She'd be 32.
Yeah, we could have,
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Damn. That's fucked. But that's fucked that that's what her story is. She was just kind of like a hypersexualized child that was murdered by her abusive older brother.
Allegedly.
Allegedly.
But I mean, it is. It's a sad story. But, Merry Christmas?
Merry Christmas? I mean...
love and appreciate your family.
Love and appreciate your daughters.
Yeah.
They're not disposable.
God, don't doll them up and send them to pageants because you're living, vicariously through them.
I think a regular, just compassionate parent, if one kid hit the other kid so much that you think they might be dead, you're going to try everything you can to save that kid's life. You're going to call an ambulance, call 911. You're going to your first thought is going to be like, oh my God, well, how does this look? Yeah. Oh my God, Burke's going to get in trouble.
They were just trying to cover that shit up, and I'm sure it doesn't sit well with the parents and didn't sit well with the mother for her last 10 or so years. So
I just don't know. I don't know how you could. It's so fucked.
Yeah.
But yeah, again, it's alleged. So
yeah, and hey, if something changes in the story, we'll update you guys. But I think the rest of America and probably other parts of the world are, waiting patiently to see this little fucker get handcuffs slapped on.
That's not going to happen because there's a statute I mean, he was under 9. He was under 10 when it happened.
Well, maybe the dad.
Which Colorado, you know. Yeah, nothing's going to happen to Burke. Nothing's going to happen to Burke. His besides his life, his fucking image is ruined. Burke, you should probably change your name and try to alter your identity.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, but
Jonbenét Ramsey.
Yeah, it's fucking sad. It's really sad. It's kind of like one of those hallmarks of just like really trashy, shitty, like upper crust kind of like keeping up with the Joneses America gone wrong, like turned sour. Like, just really, because they were this image of the perfect family, the perfect American family. Anyways, Merry Christmas, everyone. I hope you like our new camera. I hope you can't see every single.
Hope the quality's better. I mean, at least we have a reliable, means of getting videos onto YouTube. So if you are listening to the audio version wherever you get podcasts, please check out our YouTube channel, Freaks of a Feather Podcast. You can just look it up. And we will be there. There's a few on there. Don't judge the quality of our editing or, the previous videos with bad,
Don't.
quality in general.
If you listen to early episodes, like if you're one of those people who goes back to the original catalog from 1 to...
There's a few of you that have
They're
grown
rough.
with us, and we appreciate those of you that have grown with us, and over time.
We see you.
Yeah, we see
you, and we love you.
Oh.
Okay. Well, bye.
Bye.